Hey everybody, it's Tommy, and here are over 40 terms every all-rounder should know. So starting off with the word itself, an all-rounder in cubing is a person who tries to get fast at every event, rather than just focusing on one event. There are 17 different events officially recognized by the WCA, and with that comes many possibilities for methods to use. So here are some of the most common methods for each event. Starting out with 2x2, we have CLL, in which you make a layer, and then do one algorithm to solve the rest of the cube. For 3x3 and 3x3 one-handed, the most popular method is called CFOP, and it also has applications to Megaminx. Basically, you make a cross on one of the sides, and make pairs of corners and edges to finish the first two layers, and then solve the top face with one algorithm, and solve the rest with another algorithm. Now the most popular way to solve a Megaminx is using something called the Westlund method. First, rather than a cross, you make a star on one of the faces. Then you finish the first two layers just like you would with a 3x3. Now you build onto these blocks by repeating the same process with different colors. And then you get to last layer, and from here you use two algorithms to solve the top side. And then two algorithms to finish the cube. On a side note, the name for the Westlund method comes from Simon Westlund, a 3-time Megaminx world champion, and one of the best, if not the best, all-rounders circa 2013. Another method in addition to CFOP that is becoming increasingly popular for OH and people are starting to pick up on 3x3 is called RU. Here's how it works. First, you solve a 1x2x3 block on either the left or the right side. Then you solve another 1x2x3 block on the opposite side. Then you solve the top layer corners in one algorithm. And lastly, you finish up the cube with just M and U moves. The most common method for 4x4, which is also decently common for 5x5, 6x6, and 7x7, is called YAO. You start out with making two opposite centers. Then you make your first three edges attached to one of those centers. You then make the last four centers to finish up with centers. You then make one more edge to form a cross. Now you're going to solve the last 8 edges. And you're going to finish up the solve just like a 3x3. Rob Yao was the inventor of the Yao method and was also one of the best all-rounders in the world around the same time that Simon was. For 5x5 and up, the most common method is called Redux. First you solve the centers. Now you pair up the edges to reduce the cube to a 3x3 state. And then now that you've reduced the cube to a 3x3 state, you can just solve it like a normal 3x3. For Scube, the most common method is called Sarah's method. First you solve a layer. Then you solve the rest of the cube with sledges and hedges. For the most popular square one method, which is called Vandenbergh, first you reduce the puzzle to a cube, then you orient corners, orient edges, permute corners, and permute edges. The most common way to solve a pyramid is to first solve a V, which means you do a whole layer minus one edge. You then solve the rest with one algorithm, and what algorithm you use depends on what case you get. For blindfolded solving, one of the most basic and common methods is called Old Pochmann. Basically, you solve a few pieces at a time by doing setup moves to PLLs. The Old Pochmann method was invented by Stefan Pochmann, who is also one of the most legendary all-rounders in cubing history. The most common advanced method for blind solving is called 3-style. Basically, you do algorithms that cycle 3 pieces at a time. Now there isn't really a universal name for the clock method that people use, however there is a technique called pin order, in which you solve pieces in a certain order. So for example, You might start out with turning the bottom left to pair the center with the top edge, then you might turn the top right to pair these edges with the left edge, and so on. For FMC, there's not really a set method that people use, but there are many techniques that people use. One of the most common techniques is called NISS, which stands for Normal Inverse Scramble Switch. How it works is that you can switch between the normal and the inverse scramble at any point in your solution, so that you are opened up to more and more opportunities of things to find. Okay, so that was a lot of methods, and by now you might be starting to get a little bit bored, so now we're going to move on to some other stuff. So the term PR stands for personal record, and it refers to the best time you've gotten in an official competition. The term PB stands for personal best, and refers to your best time you've ever gotten. Similarly, WR stands for world record, and WB stands for world best. A PR streak refers to the amount of competitions in a row in which you break at least one PR. A huge part of being an all-rounder is improving your rankings, which are the positions you're in when times are ordered from the fastest to slowest. One of the most commonly used ways to measure how good of an all-rounder somebody is using a system called Sum of Ranks, which, just like it sounds, takes your rankings from each event and adds them all together. Egdal is currently dominating the rest of the world in Sum of Ranks, having a sum only slightly more than half of the person right behind him for both single and average. Kinchranks is another commonly used way to measure how good of an all-rounder somebody is, and here's how it works. You take the world record divided by your PR in each event, multiply these numbers by 100, and average them all together. The Kinchranks system was invented by Daniel Sheppard, a former world record holder for 4x4 blindfolded and 5x5 blindfolded, and one of the best all-rounders in the world around 2014. wca.cuber.pro is one of the main websites that people use to look at Kinchranks leaderboards, and it even has other variations of Kinchranks leaderboards, such as all the continents ranked in order. It also has a feature where you can look up a person's WCA profile and find out a lot of interesting statistics about them. Another website with Kinchranks leaderboards is wca.db.net, and in addition to the Kinchranks features, this website has a unique feature of being able to go to past competitions and finding out the scrambles that were used in each round. Of course, you can't mention Kinchranks without mentioning Stanley Chapel, who is currently dominating the rest of the world in Kinchranks and one of the fastest improvers in the world. Optimize is a word commonly used by all-rounders such as Stanley, and it essentially means to make something the best it can possibly be. The word is mainly used by all-rounders when it comes to algorithms, which are sequences of moves done to solve a problem. Next is Cubing World, which is a YouTube channel from around 2014, in which a lot of the best speedcubers in the world come together to make videos that help the community. Cubing Scene is a new and modernized version of Cubing World with the main goal of helping people get faster. Another great new resource for all-rounders is speedcubedb.com, which has a lot of algorithm sets for various puzzles. AlgDB.net is another algorithm database which is slightly outdated but still a very, very useful resource. Now, of course, there are many useful skills for all-rounders to have, one of the main ones being Lookahead, which is the ability to eliminate pauses and solves by tracking pieces you are not currently solving. Fingertricks, or the way your fingers move to perform algorithms, are also very important. Also, of course, if you want to be a good cuber, you've got to have good hardware, which includes the models of the cubes that you use, as well as how you tension and lubricate your cubes. Next we have Nemesizer, which is a website that allows you to compare cubers to each other and find out who Nemesizes who. Nemesizing someone means having better PRs than them in every single event. Nakajima is one of the most legendary all-rounders in history, and although he stopped going to competitions in 2014, he was not Nemesized by anybody until very recently. Next we have the Mollerz WCA membership system, which puts cubers into groups based on whether or not they've accomplished certain things in cubing. Lastly, we have Jayden Mcneill, who is almost without a doubt the best all-rounder in 2016. He's still very active in the cubing community today, pushing the limits of CFOP and helping people get faster with a course called Speed Cubing Solution. Now, before heading off, there are a few things that didn't quite make it into the main list, but still definitely deserve to be mentioned. So, here they are. Eric Ackersdyke. Feet. Daniel Rose Levine. Face-turning octahedron. Hibby-Minx. BH. Chris Hardwick. Daniel Byer. If you have any interest in this topic at all, I recommend looking each of them up and learning about them.